Be going now. Okay, I think we are live and ready to go. And hello and welcome to IATEFL's Leadership and Management SIG Special Interest Group. This is a live chat and we are privileged to be joined by George Pickering.
Hello, everybody. Great to be here.
So George has been in ELT forever, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah.
He's currently an educational coach, consultant, trainer, among many other hats he wears. He has previously been an IATEFL trustee and a committee member of LAMSIG as well.
Yep.
What's a wealth of experience, which hopefully we are going to capitalize on a little bit today. And oh, look at that, ambassador, IATEFL ambassador. That's right.
Yes.
Yes, along
Very
with a few
proud of
others.
that, Paul.
Yeah, wear
You
that
don't
badge.
you don't get a passport, but you get a badge.
Yeah. I'm sure it gets you into a few countries though, that badge. So yeah, we hopefully benefit from the wealth of experience and get a little insight, a little teaser of his talk that he'll be sharing at the pre-conference event in
Mm.
Brighton. First of all, George, I was going to ask, could you tell us where you're currently based and what takes up most of your time right now?
Okay. So I live in Ramsgate, which is a small town in the southeast of England, in Kent, and I spend my time, I would say, I could talk about three different areas of my professional life, which take up a lot of my time. There's a small amount of time I spend regretting the fact that I chose Leicester City as my football club. But, we'll come back. Don't worry, we'll come back. In terms of professional work, I do actually work on two management training and development courses delivered by English UK in the UK and by the University of Queensland in Australia. It takes up a lot of my time and it's very rewarding because you get the chance to help develop the next generation of managers. I'm also a senior inspector for the British Council in the UK, which means I get the chance to visit lots of places and learn from them, and also get the chance to support the accreditation unit and my fellow inspectors. And finally, I would say I've got a bunch of what I call legacy projects that I want to complete before I retire, which probably in my case means before, when I die, effectively. And my purpose has been pretty constant over the last 25, 30 years. I want to help managers in whatever way I can to develop, grow, and enjoy the process. So some of the things I'm working on at the moment is I want the sector to have much more research about managers. There's a lot out there about teachers, there's a lot out there about organizations, but I don't feel have enough about what managers do and what they need. So, for example, I'm going to be talking later this week at a conference, the English UK conference, about the research I did with 250 plus academic managers. Connected to that, I really want to help us get more managers to do their own research. In other words, practitioner research.
Mhm.
And I'd really hope that having done that research, they put it forward for inclusion in the LAMSIG newsletter.
That's a very good idea.
Two things which are connected that I'm heavily involved in at the moment. One is about AI in language teaching. And I'm working with a group of people within English UK to come up with a manner that can help them to develop their own policy. Because before we start training people and all those other things that we could quite easily do tomorrow, I think we need to have a framework, an ethical framework as to how we're doing it, why we're doing it, and what the guardrails are.
Mm, good point.
And that leads me on to my fourth perennial interest, which is how we as managers manage change effectively,
Mm,
particularly those changes where we are proactive rather than responding to external conditions.
mm.
So if you put all that together, I'm feeling a little bit tired myself,
I
actually.
was going to say, I'm tired
But
just listening to you.
but that's what I'm doing at the moment.
Brilliant. Well, obviously you're very passionate about what you do. That comes through in well any talk I've attended
Hmm.
of yours, and it's quite evident here as well. So thanks for sharing that. Some lovely ideas as well for some of us to explore, and um, encouragement to do some kind of
Mm,
action research ourselves as manager. Let's. I'm going to bring you back a little bit,
yeah,
not too far though. But how did you get into leadership or management?
that's an excellent question, Paul. And there's got to be some kind of warning here that this is me trying to remember what happened years ago. Yes. I was very fortunate that when I became a manager, I was working for a school in South East London that was prepared to support and train its managers as well as its teachers, as well as other staff. So I became a senior teacher. At the same time, I was a trades union convener, and that helped me to see things from different perspectives.
Mm,
But when I became a senior teacher, I was given the opportunity to do a 2-day course on how to do appraisals. And I've always felt, blessed that I had that early opportunity
mm,
because the research I do keeps coming up with one of the major findings is that many managers start managing before they've had any formal training in management.
mm,
I was really lucky. While working for the same organization, I also had the opportunity to set up a new summer centre in Bath, in England. And those of you that know England will know that that wasn't exactly a hardship post, but it was really useful to have control of a budget, to be in charge of recruitment, to be in charge of training, and also seeking to integrate classroom activities with social activities as well.
mm,
So
mm,
that was really a very good grounding for me. I then moved to become a marketing manager of a language school in Ramsgate. And that was really useful because I saw things from, let's say, the non-academic side and gave me the opportunity to work with admin staff as well as
mm,
with the academic department. And finally, the last thing I think which has helped me develop is by being active in IATEFL because it's
mm,
actually my professional home. And as you already said, I was fortunate to be involved in LAMSIG as the coordinator for a number of years. By the way, it was originally called ELT Management SIG. And I
okay.
think one of the things I'm proudest of is that we got rid of that deeply unsexy name and turned it into LAMSIG. Yeah, and as you say, that I had the chance to be a trustee for a number of years, which I think helped me to become more strategic in my thinking.
Okay, interesting. I'm going to come back to a comment that you made yourself there by saying that, many of us move into management without having had prior training, which is
Mm,
kind of the opposite almost to what we do as regards teaching sometimes.
exactly.
You mentioned that you were given control of budget for your summer school.
Yeah.
Had you had previous training or
Uh,
experience in budgeting?
Not really, but it wasn't a subject that I warmed to. And if I'm perfectly honest, it's because my father was an accountant.
Oh, okay.
So growing up, I had a
So you
father who
got
was
some
an
good advice.
accountant and a mother who was a primary school teacher. So there were
Oh,
two jobs I was never going to do. One was anything to do with finance, and the other one was become a teacher. And then 30 years later, let's say,
look, yeah.
you know, I became the finance, officer, the treasurer of IATEFL. So
Okay.
you can run,
Right.
but you can't hide, Paul.
Yeah. Good point. Good point. Do you think, though, it is for thinking about those who are new to academic
Yeah,
management or
yeah.
leadership? Do you think they should be worried that they haven't got prior training before moving in? Or do you think they
Um,
have transferable skills from teaching?
I
Presumably, they're moving from teaching. Sorry.
I believe that wherever we are in the world, we have got opportunities for developing ourselves as managers. I've already said that I think I was blessed and privileged to be in a particular place at a particular time with a particular organization. But I do feel that we can find a way if we want to find it. I think there's an expression from Hannibal who said, I will find a way or I will make one. So I think there are things that we can do, particularly in a digitalized world, that
Mm,
there are ways. There are lots of divides, and some people are less fortunate than us, but I do think we can find something. I would actually suggest that you don't have to be great at finance, but you need to know a little bit about finance so you don't leave finance to the financial people. I think it's also important as an academic manager to know, the costs of things
yeah.
and to realize that the choices we're making are partly determined by affordability.
Mm,
And, whether if we do this, we can't do that by making hard choices.
mm. I think that was certainly for me the tension
Yeah,
of moving from academia, should we say, from teaching, moving
that's right.
into the business world. It's the money
I
issues.
think I moved from someone who was very good at coming up with ideas to someone when I was a manager with a budget, I suddenly had to say no, to be honest,
Mm,
and it was a little bit painful at the beginning, but
yeah,
it's got easier with time. Although, for me and perhaps for many others, it's never easy to say no, particularly when you think something's a good idea.
exactly. But a necessary evil when you become a manager.
Um, I would say if we're thinking about sustainability, the first thing an organization has to ensure its financial sustainability. Without that, it can do nothing. Without that, there will be no jobs. So I think it is massively important that we remember that, which doesn't mean, we turn into evil capitalists or anything like that. We have to give it its place. And I
Mm,
think, I always remember because it's a while since I've actually taught finance, but I always used to make this point. If it's a private institution, it's called profit. If it's, public, then it's called surplus. And an organization needs to make a surplus so it can reinvest
hmm
in the institution, which also means reinvesting in its people.
mm. So, would you advocate then that it's a good idea for the academic manager to explain this and talk to their staff and say, this is why I've had to say no to this, and give a little
I
bit of the
think,
financial
yeah,
background?
I think so. Times are hard. We cannot do everything. We're going to try and do as much as we can. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. But I'm afraid, and this takes us, I think, or leads us into managing change.
Mm,
We need to create quite often a sense of urgency as to
hmm
why we need to do things and sometimes why we can't do other things.
hmm Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I'm gonna again bring you back,
Yeah.
but reflecting this time. What advice or tips would you give your pre-managerial self?
Um, I have given this a little bit of thought. And my first thought was this, that as a wiser person than me said, we all have a great desire to give advice, but not the same desire to receive it. I'm just hoping that there might be somebody out there who picks up one of these pieces of advice and ruminates upon it. I would say my first piece of advice is to remember that people support what they help to create. So we need to involve others in our ideas. We need to get ideas from others. We need to involve them in any kind of, change journey we want them to go on. And my second piece of advice is think long term. It's very easy to worry about what's going to happen tomorrow and focus on what you have tomorrow because managers are very busy people.
Mm,
When I ask that question about what's the biggest factor that stops you from the amount of development you want to make, the answer is heavy workload.
mm,
So I know it's not easy, but we need to think long term. And as part of that, I would say it's important to set objectives, clear objectives of what we want to achieve in 1 year to 3 years. And I've got a concrete example of this.
mm,
I was struck, if that's the right word, by diabetes at a certain stage in my life.
mm.
And that had an interesting impact upon me because I always thought I was going to live forever, if you know what I mean, in that kind of non-rational way. But that was like being touched by the angel of mortality. And I realized I wasn't going to live forever. So I kind of shook myself up and said, let's set a bunch of goals. And I did set a bunch of goals. And one of my goals was to be the marketing manager of a language school, earning X thousand a year, living on the south coast of England.
Mm.
And I actually achieved that, not within 3 years, but within 2 years. And it's always told me the importance of being specific. I should have been more specific and said I wanted a job in Brighton, not in the southeast coast, because I ended up in Ramsgate. If people don't know the geography of England, they won't know the difference between the two places. I love Ramsgate, but let's just say it doesn't have as many opportunities for a social life as Brighton does. I just want to say a couple more pieces of advice. I think, yeah, and this is a theme, I think, running through what I've said here. It's important to learn how to manage change. No one needs to manage, or it's easier to manage the status quo, right? Not talking about a pop group there, the status quo. Where we need to excel is how we manage choppy waters. As someone said, everybody can sail a ship or a boat when the sea is calm.
Mm,
That's
mm,
not the kind of, pond or ocean we find ourselves in. We need to be able to manage change. And I think that would be my pieces of advice. Longer
okay.
term, it would be
Mm,
longer term, it would be there are two types of managers, those that continue to learn throughout their professional lives and those that stop at some point.
hmm.
And one needs to continue to reinvent oneself, to relearn, and never take for granted that you know everything or you know
Mm.
enough. Always something new to learn.
No, it's a very good advice for life in general, isn't it, as well? So, what do you think your next learning opportunity is then?
Well, my next learning opportunity is going to be at a conference on Friday. I mean, and there I'm going to be talking, and more importantly, from my point of view, I'm going to be listening to everybody else and what they've got to say. And what I like about going to conferences is that it's really the place, the cauldron within which you can have a community of practice.
Mm,
Now,
mm,
we are part of a community of practice. A lot of it is done remotely, but I just think that the magic happens when people meet up
mm,
and people have the opportunity to learn from each other. And I think it is also important for managers to talk about shared problems and to appreciate that other people are going through similar difficulties to yourself. And there is a good possibility, that you might learn some coping
mm,
mechanisms from them or some ways in which you could reframe this problem
mm.
as an opportunity.
That's a good point as well, that feeling that you're not alone.
Yeah.
It's not, yeah, and the problem
I mean,
shared is a problem halved almost.
a lot
Mm,
of people are in big organizations, and maybe there are a number of managers within them. In the UK and elsewhere, there are quite a few medium-sized to small schools where the academic manager is to some extent on their own.
Mm,
So, taking that into account, yeah, the next learning opportunity for me is going to be this Friday at the English UK conference in London.
right. On that point, I'm going to capitalize on the fact that LAMSIG does offer that forum for
Yeah.
those academic managers who are feeling a little bit isolated, and need to, yeah, share possible ideas. You mentioned problems, and I think that's my final question is
Right.
whether you could share an issue that you've had, an obstacle to overcome as a leader or a manager, and how you dealt with it.
Um, haven't had any, Paul.
No, I'm sure you haven't, but could you invent one?
No, to be honest, I was thinking about this, and this was the one where, well, which one am I going to choose? Because we've all had problems, and I've had problems. And actually, I can honestly say it's a bit of a stereotypical response, but problems are the areas I think where we genuinely do learn.
Yeah, me too.
A-
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
I've
yeah.
chosen one which goes back a few years where I was asked to help set up a teacher training college for Bell in Cambridge. And to a certain extent, we thought we'd got it sussed. From my point of view, we had a good welcome party. We had a good induction. We had a fantastic leaving do. The students who, in fact, were teachers learning, to become better teachers, they seemed to be
Mm,
having an okay time. But there was something that wasn't quite right, I felt. And I realized what it was that the trainers, the bell trainers had little niggles, and it could be something like a technology problem, a
okay.
projector that didn't work. It would
Mm,
be something like that, or they weren't quite getting the support they needed. And then I had what I can only describe as, one of those moments where
epiphany.
I
Yeah.
suddenly realized it's the trainers, stupid. So I was thinking my role was to do everything outside the classroom, all of the, let's call it the customer service bits,
Mm,
and
hmm.
just let the teachers, the trainers get on with it.
Okay.
But I realized that no, it's the trainers stupid.
Mm,
So we turned things around. And the thing that I do remember the most is that we changed our meetings. So that the first point on the agenda was feedback to the trainers. So we used to get weekly feedback. And what I would do on a Friday morning was look through all the feedback and then turn up and present it. And I'm wondering what people think I'm going to say next. Because when I say feedback, I mean positive feedback to stress what a great job the trainers were doing.
mm, hmm.
The second point on the agenda was what do you need?
Mm,
What's missing? What haven't you got? What would help you do an even better job?
hmm.
And then it was three, which was the information that we wanted to tell them about what was happening next. And I guess the fourth point was remember to buy enough pizzas because because that was the other thing, how many teachers, how many trainers want a meeting? Question mark at the end of a
Yeah,
long working week.
yeah,
But
yeah.
with a pizza or two or three or four,
It
it
changes.
helps.
It does. Yeah. So it's interesting that sort of just it sounds simple, flipping almost
Yeah.
the agenda,
Well,
because that sort of stuff very often comes in any
sure.
other business, doesn't it?
And I'm going to give a plug to you because a few years ago you wrote something for a modern English teacher. You wrote the teacher as client. Do you remember
Yeah.
that?
Yes, I
And
do.
that's
Yeah.
interesting because I do a lot of work on customer journey mapping. When organizations use that, they tend to use it for the student journey, but
Mm,
you used it for the teacher journey, which I think is great. And one of the
hmm.
things I'm actually doing at the moment, and talking about at the IATEFL conference outside the pre-conference event, I'm talking about the manager journey, the
Okay.
manager as customer,
Mm,
because I think that is something that's been underused.
hmm. I think it's a very good point. On that pre-conference
Yeah,
note, then, I think now we could take advantage for you to give us a just a taste of or the reasons why should people come to Brighton in April for the IATEFL conference and come on Monday to the LAMSIG pre-conference event to see Beatrice, to see Sarah and yourself. Your talk is managing change proactively.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to give you two reasons why they should go, because there are two great experts going to be delivering on that day. And I mean Sarah and B, right? Just let's get
Well, I
that
mean,
clear.
don't keep yourself out of that
Sarah
list.
Mercer is, well-being, etc., fantastic. B, in relation to AA, extraordinary, brilliant. So there are two reasons. As well as that, you've got me in the post-lunch dip talking about managing change. And I want to talk about what I think and others have researched and think are the factors that can help you to manage change effectively and the factors that can hinder people and have hindered people in the past. I don't always quote Winston Churchill, but he did say something I thought was quite good. He said, change is good if it be in the right direction.
Mm,
And a lot of people that thing that stymies their attempts to manage change is that the people they want to take on the journey don't have a sufficient why as to why we're doing this.
hmm
And that I'm sure many of us have gone through that situation. Your managers are telling you about a change that is going to happen, and you turn to the person sitting next to you and you say, "Why are we doing this?" And they say, "I don't know." So I
Yeah.
hope that we can tease out some of the factors that help. Think about what hinders so we don't do that ourselves with our own chain
Mm,
management things.
hmm
And also in the afternoon when people, I think, need to be a little bit active, we're going to give people a mini case study that they're
Oh,
going to work on in groups.
excellent. It sounds like a very good reason to be in
Yeah,
Brighton in April at the IATEFL LAMSIG pre-conference event. Thank you very much. It's very
indeed.
exciting. I'm looking forward to it.
Brilliant.
Um, if anybody wants any further information, you've got the website actually where my name was. So feel
Oh,
free to
yes.
have a look at the website
Hmm.
and get in touch. And if, as I say, you want to join LAMSIG, we'll be very glad to welcome you and see you hopefully in Brighton. George, thank
Hope
you
to
very
see
much
you.
for letting us steal so much of your time. It's been very, very interesting, very valuable for many of us. Thank you.
That's great. I forgot to say welcome Lamsig, didn't I? But welcome Lamsig.
You had it there. I was
Goodbye, Lamsig. See you
brilliant.
at an ITEFL event.